Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spirit School. I have a very special guest today, Natashia Mack. Say hi, Natashia.
Hi.
Hi. So I just want to explain how I met Natashia, which is very synchronistic, of course, on Instagram. I think I started following people who follow people who mentioned her. And of course, I just follow that rabbit hole and you meet some of the coolest people that way. We're both loyal members of Dollar Moon Club, of which you are a contributor. And I know I've mentioned that a few times on the podcast, but it's pretty much the coolest corner of the internet. You have to go check it out. I'm always talking about it. It's like the best Facebook group you could ever imagine, the best Patreon account you could follow, especially if you're into astrology, sex, like
Yes.
risque conversations, like you just want to totally be yourself. It's the best corner of the internet. So me and Natashia met through Dollar Moon Club as well. And then lo and behold, it turns out we have the same mediumship mentor.
Yes.
And I was like blown away. And so there's a lot of connections between us. So I was very excited to have you on the podcast because I think you have a lot of offerings for the world that like I'd never heard of before I started following your Instagram. And I know that the people who listen to Spirit School will be super curious about it. So I just want to give it to you. Who are you? What do you love? How did this all start? And let's go from there.
Okay, sounds good. So my name is Natashia and oh my God, we're probably gonna have, my brain is like squirrel, so we'll probably have to stick with one question at a time.
For sure. Who are you?
Who am I? So, who am I? Even that's a really big question.
Well, you live in Canada.
I live in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm from a small town in northern Ontario, Canada, and I'm a mom of 4. Oh my goodness.
What's your big 3 signs?
My big 3 signs. Oh,
Sun, moon,
well, I'm
rising.
an Aries sun,
Yeah.
Aries rising, and a Virgo moon. So yes, but I've been told my my Aries is super watered down. People don't actually expect me to be that because my sun is in the 12th house. So I have a lot of like Pisces energy kind of watering down that fire.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, definitely. I love Aries too. So very cool. So you are a psychic medium.
Yes,
And
I am.
so I'm curious, people love hearing people's origin stories. Like, when did you know you were a psychic medium? And when you found out you were a psychic medium, what did that mean about like your upbringing and your childhood?
Okay, so I didn't find out that I was, actually I found out I was a medium before I found out I was psychic, which normally it's the other way around. I think I was just so, I don't know if the right word is naive. I just like didn't realize like that's what had been happening my whole life. So basically my big awakening happened during my 4th pregnancy, with my 4th child. And after I had her, I started noticing my anxiety becoming like, that's something I've always struggled with, but it was so much worse than it had ever been. And I noticed when I was around people, my whole brain would just like be wiped clean. Especially in public, my mind would just be like wiped clean of all my thoughts, and I would feel like anxiety, like almost like a panic. And so I started just kind of like staying away from people. I thought it was a sign that like my anxiety is just worse and I just need to accept that. So anyways, eventually, I met up with a close friend of mine who told me that she went to this like in-home mediumship like group thing where the medium taught them about psychometry. And so she was telling me about it. And when you hear about something and it just like speaks to you, like it just speaks to your soul.
Yeah, your soul recognizes it. Yeah.
Yes. So there's that feeling of like, hey, that sounds like something I need to try. So sure enough, I go ahead and try holding on to this object that actually belonged to my grandfather who had passed on. And so I was like, let's just see if I can connect with him. Anyways, and I just knew what to do. I knew to pay attention to what I felt, what I heard, what I saw, what I knew. And so I wrote down all this information, and the weird thing about it is that it actually turned out to be, it wasn't my grandfather. I ended up connecting with one of my grandmother's friends who had passed on, which is strange because the whole point of psychometry is reading the energy of the object. But I think what happened is that I had just tuned in, and so someone came through, and I was able to get that information validated. So I ended up practicing with other objects, and it's almost just like my soul recognized what was happening. I knew exactly what to do. And I eventually didn't need an object. I started having, past loved ones from people just coming through to me to deliver messages. And that's just basically how it all started. But as you probably know, once you figure out like, oh, hey, I'm a psychic medium, you kind of connect the dots of your life. And so I started going back to childhood, like, holy crap, this is something that has been there all along. And I didn't realize it. Like, I didn't know how to talk about it or what was actually happening. So yeah, I realize now just how sensitive to energy I used to be as a child, and just how I knew things, and I was terrified of sleeping at night. Did you experience that as a child?
Absolutely. Me and my brother shared a room for 12 years. He was incredibly psychic, and like would see my grandmother like with his naked eyes, and I'm hiding in the blankets. I'm like, I don't want to see you. I'm like, I know you're here. I don't want to see you. And we couldn't agree. He wanted the door closed. I wanted it open. Like, I was terrified of sleeping as a child. And, a couple of things that you hit on that I think people would be interested in is a lot of people mistake anxiety, like ADHD, with actually feeling the presence of energy and spirit. You could be feeling the energy of this person next to you, of the person you're communicating with, or somebody actually in spirit. I think, I don't know how it is for you, but leading up to a reading, like, I almost feel like throwing up. Like, the anxiety reaches like this level where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. And I used to mistake that for getting sick. And I'm like, no, that's my nervous system kind of like preparing to connect, right?
Yes.
And then the other thing I want to say too, so psychometry, which you explained, is the ability of like holding an object and reading the information off of it. So if anybody listening watches Hollywood Medium, you watch Tyler Henry, that's how he works. He holds an object. He's able to get a ton of information. One thing too that you mentioned on your Instagram the other day was that you also, like me, identify as being, I don't know if this is fair to say, but mostly clairsentient, right? Which makes sense with that psychometry. So with the clairsentience, which is that clear feeling, do you find you get like more drained? Do you find that you can work less because of that ability?
Definitely. So I know that there's so many things you can do to kind of like, protect your energy so you're not being drained, and making sure you're closing up your aura so that you're not always open. So you're not always like receiving that energy from other people and everything. But for me, I feel like it doesn't matter what I do. It's just my most powerful sense. I can meld. So I can, in case people don't know what the word meld is, like the way you connect with a spirit just so deeply, like a past loved one, I can connect with another human who's still living in that way. So I can actually take on their thoughts, their emotions, their pains, and that's how I read energy. But we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'm super curious about that too. I'm really, really interested in that. But I want to go back to like childhood here for a second too. So we have very similar stories. Like, my ability came out after the birth of my first child. Now, I had been told since I was 17 I'd be a medium by every reader I ever saw, but I never believed anyone because I drank a lot. I'm like, I smoked a lot of pot. I'm like, I was like not pure. I'm like, angels are not going to talk to me. Trust me. And that was my perception until I had my daughter. And much like you, it's like the rest of my life kind of made sense. So as a child, you were scared of the dark. Did your parents believe in this kind of stuff? Were they spiritual? Were they supportive?
So I actually grew up going to church every Sunday. I'm very Catholic. And my parents never really spoke about experiences like that. Oh, I'm blanking out. What was the question again?
I was just wondering more about like the childhood, if like, you know, looking back, okay, these are my abilities, like, okay,
Right.
my childhood makes sense now. Like, what were a couple of the experiences or even an experience that you had as a child that makes sense now?
So, well, actually going back to the topic of being so scared in the night, I actually remember hearing spirit outside of me. So like clairaudiently, but like on the outside of my ear. And I used to get poked a lot, or I'd have like the blankets ripped off of me, like things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was those experiences. But I feel like for me, so many of the connections that I made like to my childhood is just my deep ability to feel so much. And that was like, that's been a theme since, oh my God, since I can remember, just that part of me, like just knowing things that I shouldn't have known, or
Like premonition
knowing,
type stuff.
yes. And like knowing things about people, like without them telling me, or if they were lying, I could literally feel that there was something else hiding behind that lie. Yeah, and just visions. Oh my goodness. Like, so I've always been very much like a very imaginative person, did a lot of daydreaming.
Yes.
And so I started to notice like just how many times where I would see something in my mind, but then it would actually end up happening or meant something later on.
Yeah, I love that, because I think a lot of people will be able to hear that and be like, yeah, no, that happens to me too. And I'm like, yes, we are all intuitive and get
Very.
curious. So then we kind of like fast forward and like you have your fourth child. How many kids do you have?
I have 4.
4. Okay.
Yes, that's it.
Like you're stopping at 4. Okay. Good for
Stopping
you.
at 4. No more.
So there's a few things I want to ask about that, because I love talking to moms who are mediums. I actually thought about naming the podcast Moms Who Medium, because I have found, we talked a little bit about this before the episode aired, but like as a mom of 2 young children, like my kids are 5 and 3, they are always sick. I am always getting sick. I used to book out a year and a half in advance, and now I can't do that anymore. I'm like, I only open up sessions like once a month, for a month, because I can't plan that far. I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be flu season.
Yeah.
You know, we had strep throat 3 times last year. I had to take 4 months off readings. Like, you never know what's going to happen. So these are like kind of like complexities as healers that we encounter when we're professional mediums. And so I'm kind of curious to talk to another mom who does this professionally. You're full-time, right? Like this is your full-time gig.
Yes, this is my
What is it like being a mom doing this full-time with 4 kids?
You mentioned being drained a lot. So not only am I drained from being such a clairsentient being, and being so open all the time, but I'm also very drained from just regular mom life. So like if I could have coffee in an IV, like if like coursing through my veins, that would be great. But yeah, I feel like my biggest struggle has been trying to find balance between work and family. So I only do sessions like a few days a week, or like at the most probably 3 days a week, because I need those breaks to like recharge or like catch up on housework or like you know, things like that. I still haven't gotten the hang of like pre-planning meals, you know, like you're supposed to apparently when you're a mom. But I am like I feel like I'm slowly getting the hang of it. I feel like this year has been like that's been a huge like that's been highlighted for me, like finding more of that balance between the two. It's definitely tough when like one of the kids gets sick and they need to stay home from school, and then I kind of have to you know, reschedule with clients or something like that. But luckily I have the most understanding clients. I absolutely love them so much. And luckily my kids don't get sick often, so that's really good.
Yeah, and I'm just going through this now because I got super sick this week and last week,
Oh.
and I had these clients, and I had to reschedule them last month because I got sick. And then, sure enough, during the week I rescheduled them too. I got sick again,
Oh my God.
and so I hear you. And because you got a Virgo moon, I have a Virgo sun. We're a bit of people pleaser. We want things to be
Yes.
perfect. When we get caught off guard and things don't go as planned, we kind of like crumble a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard time with that. That's probably my number one challenge in my business. Also, I don't know about you, but my husband is not supportive of my mediumship practice or business, unfortunately. He doesn't
Okay.
believe in it. And so I myself try to fit in my readings. I went down to part-time at work so I could make more space for this. And I try to do it during school hours as much as possible. Keep the peace, allow that balance.
Yes.
So is your husband, your partner, like supportive of this?
Yes, actually, I am. Oh my God. This is the part where I may start crying. I'm just kidding. Oh, squirrel. Anyways, there's literally a squirrel outside.
Literally.
So yeah, my husband, I'm very, very fortunate because I know that this can be very challenging, right? Having, like, if your husband isn't open or into that, this is like a tough business to be in if you don't have that support. But yeah, he is very, very supportive. I feel like he's very empathic and kind of has his own abilities. Not that he's open to discovering those. I just know that they're there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so honestly, I wouldn't be able to do this without him, especially having 4 children. I'm like you were. I only do my sessions during school hours also. I used to do my sessions only in the evenings, and that was like, no.
You're too
Like, you know
tired.
how tired you are in the evening? Like, are you kidding me?
I'm like, I'm lucky if I can stay up an hour past my kids' bedtime.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. I was like, no, something needs to change. So I started doing my sessions only during the day, which also helps, I find, with the balance of home, family, and business. But yeah, definitely grateful that my husband's supportive.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, I don't want my husband to believe, like, I'm not here to convince him that mediumship is
Right.
real. Like, he's happy living his life thinking that we'll meet when we go, right? I'm happy knowing that life continues.
Yeah.
To their own. I think for him, because I was doing so much on weekends, so much in the evenings, it was like really kind of like pulling me away from the family. And in truth, like, I got sick last year because I was trying to do everything. And I find myself slipping into that pattern every once in a while. I have to get like a reality check. Okay, no, don't commit to too much.
Yes.
Don't commit to too much. Okay, so 2 more things I really want to talk to you about today. One is the development path. I'm kind of curious. So like after your 4th child, you signed up for this class. Like, have you always had a mentor? Like, what has your development path been like?
So the first little bit of my development, I just focused on practicing, but like in a way that was just very intuitive for me, and doing like a lot of research on my own. But then it came to the point where like, okay, like how am I gonna get to the next level? Like, I'm ready to kind of take this seriously. And that's when I met Lindsay Marino. So drawn to her energy. Like,
She's
so I
the
took
sweetest.
her. Oh, she's so freaking sweet. So she was the mentor I was drawn to, because as like a lot of people listening probably know, there are so many mentors out there. So it can be kind of hard to figure out, okay, like who's the right one for me. But honestly, I think it's just you feel in energetically to like what feels right for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm so grateful for her beginners class. And then, I had a coach after that to kind of help me go even deeper with things, but just in life in general too, and for my healing. And then I ended up doing another course with Lindsay, to her next level one.
I'm in that one right now.
Oh,
yeah, it's great.
So good.
Yeah.
And then, I even have a coach again now. I feel like when you're developing, it's important to find that sense of community, right? Like, like-minded individuals, and having that support of some sort of mentor, whether it's like, you know, an actual mentor or a coach or of some sort, just to help you. Okay, wait. Now Spirit's like, mention how lonely it can be in this business.
Yep.
Because it can be. Like, I don't know about you. I live in a rural area. Okay, there's no one else doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, me too. I'm in a small town. I'm sure that there's other mediums here, but like I'm kind of known as like the town witch. Now there's tons of healers here. Don't get me wrong. I'm in Healer Central, but I don't need, like, I'm Squamish medium. But I don't know if there's many or any other people doing mediumship readings like in my little town. So I totally get you.
Yes. So when I was especially when you're just starting out and just trying to like figure things out, like now where I am at, I've been able to find like just incredible people in my community or like in the surrounding communities. Like now I'm aware of them, but back then when you're just starting out and you have so much fear, and like even coming out of the closet can be like so nerve-wracking. That was very difficult for me. Oh crap, I lost my train of thought.
No, you found the community, and you said that was spiritual you, that it was quite a lonely journey too.
Yes. Yeah, it started off very lonely. And just, I think it was the fear that created so much of that loneliness too. Like that fear of reaching out, that fear of like talking about it, or like the fear of being seen, and what are people going to think? Like, are they going to go on a witch hunt? Or it's like, that was like a legit fear for me.
Yeah, I could imagine. And, I think a lot of women who are stepping into their own power, and there's more of us now, we do have that kind of like DNA cellular level healing to do around the fear of persecution, around the fear of seeing other women as being threatening. Back in the witch trials, we used to name each other to try to save ourselves. And there is still like this underlying current that we're trying to break through now. Like, I'm so happy to be a woman coming through at this time in history, because like, I'm ready to heal this shit. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Now, what was one of the insecurities that came up on your development path? And like, have you overcome it? Does it still creep in? Like, mine was always around being wrong. Like, it kept me from doing readings. Like, and that's my Virgo sun, 110%, where I was like, if it's not going to be perfect, I'm not even going to try. Right. Like, that's my Virgo, which is like such a curse for people who are mediums and Virgos.
Right? God, that's Virgo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally relate. So for me, okay, wait, what was the question again? I swear I'm present. That's just how my brain works.
No, it's all good. It was around what developing, like, what was one of your insecurities that came up and that you had to kind of overcome?
Okay, yes. So for me, it was that fear of being seen. And also, so like before we started recording, and I told you about my inner critic that's in the back of my mind. It's like I'm working through it, but this feeling that like people wanted me to like hurry, to like get to the point, or like, another thing is like oh my God, the horrible feeling of just not being good enough, not giving enough. Like in the back of my mind, it was like, am I giving them their money's worth? Oh my God, am I giving them like what they need? Like it was so much of this like lack mentality of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not able to give them what they need. I'm not going to give a good enough reading. Like, so that's something that like was really hard on me. And I feel like it got in the way of a lot of things, but it also, like, working through it has taught me so much.
Yeah. No, that is very insightful, and I definitely can experience that as well. I think I had one client 2 years ago who paid me my greatest compliment. And I know in our line of work, like somebody told me before, if you're looking for a job where everyone's like, good job, you did great, like, this is not it.
Right.
Like, I don't know about you, but sometimes like I never hear from a client again. And sometimes that's a good thing. But I know for us, because we work with the world of intangibles, we're like, I need feedback. Like, you don't want to be reaching for the validation, but the validation helps. And I remember I had a doctor actually sit with me 2 summers ago, and she said, you know, Danielle, if you charged me double what you charged me, I would have found value in it still. And I was like, to me, that was like one of the greatest compliments I'd ever received as a medium, because that always comes up for me too, because I mean, people used to book for me for $20, and then now I'm like 150.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've kept that price now for a year and a bit. I feel like I'm needing to increase it again, because you can feel that energy exchange imbalance, right? But raising your prices is always super hard. So, okay, that's really interesting. And thank you for sharing that. And I completely agree. There's so much to learn through working through it. I'm a flighter, like, you know, the fight, flight, or freeze. I'm like a flighter. If things don't go wrong, I'm like, hey, I'm going to refund everyone and just like take a break.
No.
Right? But I'm like, no, Danielle, work through this. Like, keep going. And that's what Lindsay always says. She's like, Danielle, don't take a break. Just keep going out there. Keep going out there.
Keep going.
Such a great teacher in that way.
For sure.
And I wanted to say too, what you mentioned about building that community. I have found the community that Lindsay had built, that we're part of, has been one of the biggest impactful things in my mediumship, because I do have a couple medium friends, but not many, and not many that are willing to be as equally vulnerable as me. And so I find that that group has completely opened me up in a way that is beautiful. And I'm really happy to be part of that. So, and I'm happy that you're in that and we're together in that. And it's very supportive. It's very
so supportive.
I love it. I love it. I love it. People don't feel like in competition with each other at all. Like, there's nothing ugly about it. So I agree about the community. So now I kind of want to get through to what you offer the world, because I was so curious about these energy scans that you do. And I imagine as a clairsentient, I just want to know all about this. And then I want to talk about your books too. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay.
Everything, all the things. So talk to me
all
about
the
what
things.
you do.
So yeah, aside from my mediumship sessions and intuitive guidance sessions, I offer these things called energy scans, and they've grown so much. Like, it started as one little thing, like me. So yeah, might as well, why not go back like to the beginning? Does that sound good?
Of course.
Okay. And how they've grown. So I ended up having a reading before, and by a woman who channels from Archangel Raphael. No, one of the archangels, Archangel Raphael, I believe.
Yeah. The healer one.
Or Gabriel. There we go. Archangel Gabriel, the messenger.
She came up this morning for me. Funny enough, you say that.
Oh,
like, I pulled a card for Lindy before we hopped on, and it was Archangel Gabriel. So interesting.
That's amazing. That is so interesting. Yeah, I feel like they're a lot more present lately. I've been getting so many signs. So yeah, she told me that I was like aligned with Archangel Michael. Like, there was no work that I'd need to do. Like, I was just, that's someone who was very present around me. Which is interesting, because the name Michael has been so heavy in my entire life. Like, I'm not, it's just been like a weird thing. So I do feel like he's always been there. Anyways, so I started working with him, channeling from him, and received a lot of information about like just energy and how we can hold like emotions in certain areas of our bodies. You know, once I started learning more about the chakras, I went even deeper. So I did a lot of practicing of like energy work on someone who's very close to me, who actually struggled very badly with addiction and had some like other issues like with that. So anyways, there was just incredible breakthroughs with her, like absolutely like complete turnaround. And I was like, okay, like this is interesting. So I started doing these like energy clearings on people that I just like would intuitively felt that they needed it. And then actually wasn't until I did one for Cassie. Okay. So I'm sure
most Club creator
know who Cassie is, like shout out to her.
Yeah.
I ended up doing one for her. And the difference that she felt was so drastic that without her even asking me, she went in her stories and told the whole world about it. So she's like, So she messages me later, hey, guess what? Like, this is going to be a new service that you're going to be offering because, like, people are going to go crazy. And I was like, what? So I feel like if she would have asked me permission, I would have said, like, no, because it's just something that's kind of like, especially at the time, like, are people going to be open to this? Like, that sort of thing. So basically what I do is I do, like, I'm sure everyone's heard of, like, Reiki, energy healing, that sort of thing. So I start by going into each of the chakras. So I start with the crown chakra, and then I make my way down through each of them. And then at the end, I do, like, a final energy clearing. And okay, so I've noticed that in each chakra I receive, like, it seems like there's a theme to what sort of information I'm going to pick up on. And so how I do this is I'm like, I don't even do these, like, in person. Like, I literally just have a photo of the person. Like, that's all I need from it. So there's no appointment, nothing like that. I just tune into their energy and connect with them the way I would with a spirit.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm just paying attention to, like, all my clairs, what's coming in my own body, in my own mind. So I'm able to pick up on, like, thought patterns, the energy that's going on around them, emotional blocks, emotional wounds that really like, weigh heavy on them or are influencing their lives in some way. I definitely pick up on a lot of, like, inner child. Like, that's how deep I go. I pick up on a lot of inner child wounds, things like that. And meanwhile, I also just channel, like, a ton of guidance and, like, tools that help them empower themselves and tools that they can use on their own self-healing journey. I'm very big on, like, here you go. Like, I'm not going to do it for you. Like, you, like, here's the tool so you can find that sense of, like, empowerment, and you are, like, working on your stuff. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. So you send, like, people a video of, like, you channeling the information?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I record the entire thing from start to finish. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, at the very end, I pull some cards just to channel, like, a little bit extra messages and guidance for them. So it's basically like a energy clearing, reading, and, like, also they get to take a bunch of tools, and sometimes I'll share, like, visualizations for them to do, like, things like that they can take with them. I hope I described it all.
No, I love it because I've seen them be very popular because I've been following your Instagram now for, like, over a year, I think. And they come up really popular, and I've always wanted one. And I will get one for sure. I'm definitely going to be booking one because I'm like, oh, I'm so curious about that. Because I know when I'm in a session with somebody, like, because I mainly am clairsentient.
Right.
That was due to intention because I never trusted my clairvoyance. And, like, with Lindsay, I'm definitely working more on my clairaudience. I'm working on my clairvoyance because I find it quite taxing on my body picking up all the other physical stuff, right?
Yes.
Like, actually feeling Alzheimer's and, like, actually feeling a heart attack. Like, it can be quite taxing on your nervous system, and I need a good nervous system to do this work. So, but when I'm sitting with somebody, I'm able to kind of, like, feel if they're resonating with the information or not. Like, my body goes cold, and if it, like, goes, like, warm, then I know it's, like, literally hot and cold. It's so funny, like, this game. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So I'm always curious. I'm like, well, I wonder if those energy scans are kind of like that, but it's cool to know that you kind of connect in with the chakras. And so I want to talk about your book too, because I'm almost done it. Like, I've started reading it. I purchased it as soon as it came out.
Oh my God, you did.
Of course, girl. I'm like, I always support other women and whatever they're doing. I'm like, yeah, I want to buy all the things. I want to support you guys. And it's a really good book. And so it's called Go Heal Yourself. And that's kind of like a theme that I've heard from you throughout this interview has been this real pure desire and willingness and eagerness to help other people heal. Because it sounds like you've gone through like quite your own healing journey, and your beautiful perspective on it about how much growth you've received from it. Because a lot of people, it's very easy to stay in that victimhood. It's very easy to share your story and like live it continuously over. So yeah, it sounds like you're just like a natural healer. You just want to heal all the people. So tell me about the book and how people can buy it and what it's all about.
Okay, well, so yeah, my book is called Go Heal Yourself, and it's full of tools and exercises for basically doing like inner child work and bringing healing to your inner child to empower you as an adult. So I truly believe that most people nowadays are walking around with a very wounded like child living inside of them, and this child is still making, like, it's the foundation of who you are, right? What you went through. So they're the ones making a lot of the choices, decisions. They're the ones getting triggered, feeling insecure, that sort of thing. So for me, like as someone who experienced childhood sexual abuse, it's something that so I experienced a lot of triggers, right? And just being incredibly insecure. And growing up, it's almost like it's something that it felt like it was so much like a part of me still, you know. I felt like I was just often reliving it, and I never really got the help on how to overcome so much of that, like do you know what I mean, like the triggers and the anxiety and that sort of thing. So okay, where am I going with this?
So you created the book to try to help others.
Yes, because so I created that because I did so much of my own inner child healing. And I realized that that's where my healing needed to start, was like back down to the childhood abuse that I experienced. And then I was kind of like able to, so many of the things that used to like control me or have power over me, it's like I've been able to kind of take my power back by going down to the root of the wounds and healing those, or just becoming even more aware. Like I don't know if I necessarily believe that we're ever like truly healed beings.
Yeah.
It's like becoming aware of, okay, this is coming up from this time in my life. So it's not actually something that how do you word that? Like why do I keep doing this? Sorry.
You know, because you got 4 kids, girl. I'm like, I don't know about you, but I walk around work like, and I'm a smart person. I'm high up in my organization. I walk around like, what? And like, I always tell people I have postpartum dementia.
It's
I'm like,
so true.
I'm like, I swear I'm going to have postpartum dementia until I'm like 30, until they're 30. I'm way over 30. So, you know, don't be hard on yourself because you got 4 kids. I'm like, girl, I don't even know how you're standing up right now.
I know, it's like my brain I just lose my train of thought so quickly, except for when I'm channeling. I feel like that's the only time I'm in flow. I can do whatever spirit gives me. When it comes to me just talking from my own self, it's like, damn it.
Totally. I get it. I'm totally like that. I'm hearing you and I'm like, girl, that is so me. If you saw me in the workplace, I'm like, what did we talk about yesterday? I'm like, I have no idea. Did we meet yesterday?
Exactly. Yeah, that's me. So
but the Go Heal Yourself book is amazing. I want people to go check it out because, you know, I wasn't even aware of inner child stuff until last year. I was going through a lot, and spirit, I was in the shower and spirit
best place to get down.
I know it is. And spirit was like, Danielle, take a seat. I always get that. Danielle, take a seat. And my 7-year-old self came up, and it was like this intense healing moment that I had addressing my 7-year-old self with what I know now. And it was a very healing experience, and it got me over my hump. So when I saw your book come out, I was like, wow, like people need to start reading stuff like this and having these kind of like conversations, because there's a lot of wounds our inner childs hold. And it's a really kind of like speedy healing process, if I could say it without it sounding like it's a quick fix, because it's not a quick fix.
Right. But you're right. It does help you like this can save you
years of therapy.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
It's so true though. If you take initiative and actually like work through what your younger self is needing, and it's like they need that validation, they need to feel safe and secure. You just become so much more aware of your patterns, of just things that often come up, even like your anxiety and when you start to feel depressed and things like that. It's like if you go inward and kind of tune into like what your inner child is trying to tell you, like how they're feeling, I do feel like it makes a huge difference. And I've been able to empower myself greatly from this work, so I know that it works. So basically what I did is I felt guided to channel this book. So most of that information is actually channeled. I had to go back and reread and be like, okay, that's something that my own brain wouldn't have put together.
Totally.
So I know like a lot of that is from like the spirit world, or like the angelic realm. And and I'm so grateful. So there's like different tools and exercises in there. There's even like a painting exercise where you paint with your younger self. It's just all about getting out of your head and into your heart. And like when a child paints, okay, they're not like they just kind of go for it, right? They're so innocent, imaginative, and they just kind of go for it. And but we as adults, we have so much resistance and judgment on ourselves, and we're so critical of ourselves. So it's like one of those things where you can really be mindful of that inner voice and how you kind of critique yourself, or like, I don't know, it's an opportunity to just like let go and just see what happens. And building a connection with them.
Awesome. All right. So to wrap this up, how can people book an energy scan with you? What's your website? What's your social media? Like, where do you hang out? Where can people find you?
So my website is my name, Natashia. My parents put an I in there to make it more complicated. So natashia.net. And basically everything can be found on there. All of my offerings, my scheduler. They can find me on Instagram. I am natashia.medium. I love to hang out on there mostly, but I'm also on Facebook, Natashia Psychic Medium. And I think that's
all right. And I'll have all this linked down in the show notes. People can just like quickly link to you, and I'll just leave the last words to you. If you have a quote or a good piece of advice you want to give my listeners who are developing intuitives.
Well, oh boy. Honestly, I think I just want everyone to know that you have so much power inside of you. I lived most of my life, 90% of my life, feeling completely powerless. And then now I'm like, no, wait a second. Like, I'm actually like a badass bitch. I had to put some humor in there, but basically everyone has their own gifts. They all have a purpose here. They all have their own abilities. And I want people to like put more focus on nurturing themselves and like getting deeper in their own heart space, because that's where your soul speaks to you, and that's where all the magic happens. And everyone has something so special about them, and I know that they can find that inside of themselves rather than looking so much outward, because I feel like nowadays it's like we're always looking outward, right? Like in so much of what we're doing. So
I love that.
Look inside of you, because there's some magic in there.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Natashia, so much for coming on Spirit School.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I'm so grateful.
Awesome.